covered Daniel chapter 9, and that was Daniel's prayer. That was where he prayed not just for himself, but for all the Israelites. Prayed for God's mercy over them in the light of their sin, that he would again show his true character, his merciful character, and rescue them. Not because they deserved it, not because anything had really changed with them, but simply because they were his people and he was asking for mercy from his God. So in Daniel chapter 10, this is Daniel's vision of a man. This is the prologue. This is the introduction. So it's still about the ram and the goat. Thank you. So it's still about the ram and the goat. Okay, it still concerns the dream that he had that we learned about several chapters ago. But here he's going to describe it more, and we will be able to better understand just what this stands for in the light of the prophecy. Because remember, none of this stuff happened in Daniel's time. This was all in the future. All right, so this chapter through chapter 12, which is the end of Daniel, will more fully describe the vision he had in the 8th chapter. Chapter 10 is the prologue, chapter 11 is the prophecy, and chapter 12 is the epilogue. Prologue means the introduction, epilogue is like a follow-up, just to give you a little more after the end kind of thing. All right, so chapter 10, verses 1 through 4. I want you to picture, try and visualize the setting that Daniel's describing here. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a revelation was given to Daniel, who was called Belshazzar. This message was true, and it concerned a great war. The understanding of the message came to him in a vision. Now we're switching the narrative. Now it's Daniel talking. At that time, I, Daniel, mourned for 3 weeks. I ate no choice food, no meat or wine touched my lips, and I used no lotions at all until the 3 weeks were over.
Sounds gross.
On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the bank of the great river, the Tigris. So picture that setting. For 3 weeks, he has fasted and prayed, and now he's outside. It doesn't mean that he stayed inside. You can fast and pray outside. You can fast and pray in a building. You can fast and pray almost anywhere. All right? So now he's outside and he's standing on the bank of the great river. All right? The Tigris. So verses 5 through 8. Now listen to his description of the man that he encounters. I looked up, and there before me was a man dressed in linen, with a belt of the finest gold around his waist. His body was like chrysolite, his face like lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of burnished bronze, and his voice like the sound of a multitude. I, Daniel, was the only one who saw the vision. The men with me did not see it, but such terror overwhelmed them that they fled and hid themselves. So I was left alone, gazing at this great vision. I had no strength left. My face turned deathly pale, and I was helpless. So let's picture this. This man before him is golden and luminous. Do you know what luminous means?
Glowing.
Glowing. He has this aura about him. His eyes are like fire. When he spoke, it sounded like a huge group of people or the roaring of an unsettled sea. It just surrounds you, all right? Only Daniel sees him. Everyone else is so afraid They couldn't see anything, but something overwhelmed them, terrified them to the point they took off running. They went and hid. Daniel feels weak. He feels helpless. His face is pale. Now, in one of the, actually a couple of the studies that I read in doing this, some people believe that this unnamed man is Jesus. It doesn't say his name. We don't know. We're not given that information. But that's what some people believe. So verses 9 through 12. So now he's pale, he's weak, all right? Then I heard him speaking, and I listened to him. I fell into a deep sleep, my face to the ground. A hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. A single hand touched him. He said, Daniel, you who are highly esteemed, consider carefully the words I am about to speak to you, and stand up. For I have now been sent to you. And when he said this to me, I stood up trembling. Then he continued, do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. So there's a couple things there. One thing that really stood out to me was, do not be afraid. Have we heard that before in the Bible?
Yes.
Yeah, usually when an angel shows up and people people are afraid, right? Do not be afraid. All right. So Daniel, picture this. Daniel is face down. He's feeling totally unworthy. He's trembling. He's face to face with this man, and it overwhelms him to the point he can't even look. He is absolutely flat on the ground. Then a hand reached out to help Daniel to his hands and knees. The man's touch, just his touch, it doesn't say he picked him up, it doesn't say he grabbed him, simply says his touch brings Daniel up to his hands and knees. He is told the words from this man's mouth. He is told that he is highly esteemed, and this helps Daniel stand. The man didn't touch him at this point. He simply said the words, you are highly esteemed. You have been found in favor. And this gives Daniel the strength to stand up and face this man. Do you think anyone could do that? Do you think there are any words that you could hear that could bring you from the point of trembling and terror to standing in peace and ready to listen? No? When I've had some answers to prayer, I have gone from a couple years ago, I was pretty sick for a couple months. I had a pretty bad reaction to a device, and it for about 6 months, I had nightmares almost every night. Absolute scariest things I've ever been through. And even during the day, I would sit there, couldn't do much of anything, was losing weight rapidly, didn't know a whole lot about what was going on, and just watching a regular TV show, something like Phineas and Ferb, and I would have an anxiety attack. I couldn't watch it. There was, whatever happened would trigger something in me. And in that time, the only thing I could do is sit there, close my eyes, take a deep breath and say, Jesus, I need you. That's all I had. I couldn't utter it out loud. I couldn't open my eyes. The best I could do is simply close my eyes and in my head say, Jesus, I need you. And in that time, there was one point, this was during a colder part of spring. It hadn't warmed up yet, so we didn't have our windows open. My house is absolutely closed up, and I felt a breeze come across my face. My heart slowed down. I could breathe again. Okay, I didn't hear any words, but I felt something. There was something so incredibly real right there with me that I was able to stop and breathe and go about my day. And that happened over and over until I had this medical issue taken care of. And what I learned about that was I was actually having an allergic reaction to something inside me, and it was making my tongue swell so that I couldn't breathe. But each time I prayed, things would stop and I could breathe again. And through that, when I read this, I thought, I haven't been where Daniel was. I wasn't face down, but I was absolutely in a position of utter terror, not knowing what was going on. And it would strike at all different times. In the shower, it would strike at night, it would strike during the day. It would, thankfully, it only happened once while I was driving and I was able to get to a safe spot. But if you've ever been in that position, I pray that you can stop and feel his presence with you when you call out to him. All right, so Daniel's told that he's highly esteemed, and this helps him stand. Daniel is told that soon as he humbled himself and started to pray, that was 3 weeks ago, an angel was sent to give him an answer. 3 weeks. An angel was sent immediately as soon as he started to pray. Why does it take this man 3 weeks to reach Daniel? What happened? You'd think it'd be pretty instantaneous, wouldn't you?
Maybe the commute time is just longer than you think.
Could be. Let's see. So,
Maybe he wasn't ready for the answer yet.
actually, verses 13 and 14. So we're going to go back just a little bit. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. But the prince of the Persian kingdom resisted me 21 days. Another heavenly being stopped him and fought with him for 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, you guys remember Gabriel, right? Have you ever heard of Michael? Mm-hmm. Michael is the chief prince, the chief angel on God's side. Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me because I was detained there with the king of Persia. Now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the future, for the vision concerns a time yet to come. 21 days. The angel was restricted because the prince of Persia blocked his passage. It wasn't until Michael, one of the chief princes, angels, arrived that the first angel got away. The prince of Persia is a demonic angel of the Medo-Persian Empire. He's a bad influence, but he's a powerful influence. Michael is of a higher order. He has more power and more authority than this prince of Persia. So as soon as Michael shows up, he is then going to deal with the prince of Persia, and the first angel can now come to Daniel. Verses 15 through 19. While he was saying this to me, to Daniel, I bowed with my face to the ground and was speechless. Now this is different. He wasn't terrified. This is an ultimate show of respect. He is bowing down in respect, because he knows that what's coming, he is being trusted with a lot. And being given this information about the vision, this is his way of humbling himself, emptying himself, and saying, I'm ready for whatever you're going to tell me. Then one who looked like a man touched my lips, and I opened my mouth and began to speak. He couldn't speak before that. I said to the one standing before me, I am overcome with anguish because of the vision, my Lord. He doesn't know what to do. He's overcome. This is overwhelming. I am helpless. How can I, your servant, talk with you, my Lord? My strength is gone. I can hardly breathe. Keep in mind, at this point, Daniel is more than likely in his mid, possibly late 80s. This is not a young man. He's been through a lot, but he also has God's favor with him. So he is given strength by these beings that are there with him to bolster him up, to give him the courage to speak, to give him the strength to stand. All right, so he can hardly breathe. Again, the one who looked like a man touched me and gave me strength. Every time Daniel needs it, he receives it. This is not a one-time thing. This is not a, I gave you your portion today, come back and see me next week. Every time. And if ever you need that type of strength, if ever you need something like that, God is ready and willing and right there, and he will stand by you. He is right there ready to help. And that's what he's doing for Daniel here. He says, do not be afraid, O man highly esteemed. Peace, be strong now, be strong. With his words, he is giving him strength. With his words, he is letting Daniel know, I am here for you. I'm going to help you through this, and anything you need, I have ready, and I'm willing to give it to you right now. So Daniel's overcome. He can hardly breathe. There seem to be, from what we're reading here, there's two different beings there, right? We have the angel with the message, and we have the one who looks like a man. This is the one who strengthens Daniel with his touch as well as with his words. So there's one that's delivering a message, and there's one that is just there for Daniel, just to bolster him up and help him through this time, because he knows he can't do this alone. When he spoke to me, I was strengthened and said, speak, my Lord, since you have given me strength. Again, he's recognizing he can't do this in his own power, but with the help of this angel, with the help of this one who looks like a man, he can do this. He's ready. All right. Verses 20 and 21. So he said, do you know why I have come to you? Soon I will return to fight against the prince of Persia. And when I go, the prince of Greece will come. Oh, Joe, you are awesome. Can you tap that? So when I go, the prince of Greece will come. But first I tell you what is written in the book of truth. No one supports me against them except Michael, your prince. Michael is the prince of Israel. Undo. So just like Persia has an angel, an influence, a demonic angel on their side, influencing what they're doing, the Israelites also have a prince. They have a prince that has more power, more authority in Michael. And then they have this prince, this angel also, on their side, and they are going to battle for Israel. So this is the three different princes here, and depending on which version of the Bible, depending on which study you read, it'll either say prince or angel in the versions. Now it talks about two different demonic princes, the prince of Persia and the prince of Greece. The one assigned to Persia, he's there during Daniel's time. The second one, the prince of Greece, when we look back at the history books, that's still 200 years away from Daniel. This doesn't happen quickly. We're talking a lot of time. And this happens under Alexander the Great. Right?
Yeah.
So the nation of Israel has Michael, the archangel. This shows us a glimpse of the influence that the angelic realm has into the affairs of men. There are things going on that we can't see, we may feel, we may wonder, but we can't see them. This is giving us a glimpse. It's real. It's out there. There are other realms that we don't know about, angelic realms, and they're fighting for us. They're out there helping. A lot remains a mystery, but this shows we're in a spiritual battle. Has anyone ever heard that? That they're in a spiritual battle? That's what this is talking about. This battle is fought for us by angels, sent by God to help those who are his against those angels that are sent by Satan. That's all for this. That was one chapter just to get Daniel ready to hear what the dream means. Any questions?